sponsored by New Haven Funeral Home.
A funeral service should be one that you can be proud of, one that leaves lasting memories of your loved ones. And that's where you need the New Haven Funeral Home. When you walk through our doors, our work begins. From corsages to flowers to guest books, whatever you need to make that funeral a memorable one. We are proud of the quality and class we have brought to the industry. We are proud for having trained the very first certified embalmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are proud of leading the way in terms of live streaming of funerals online so that your family members overseas could also be part of the celebration of life. We are constantly improving our services. We are driven by customer satisfaction, and we are proud of all that we do.
New Haven Funeral Home, helping families preserve memories.
Hi, my name is Michelle Doyle. Welcome to IKTV as we remember and pay tribute to the late Grace Eustace, former principal of Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia, community builder, daughter of the late great John Pomenes Eustace, also known as JP Eustace. Here are the tributes.
We'll finally get to be together, stare with our hearts at what has been and find some place of home, and find some place of home. On her way. She's on her way. She's on her way, on her way. She's on her way, on her way.
Just some reflections on the life of Grace Eustace. She was Grace in name and Grace in nature. She was a very committed person. She was a very humble person. She was a very dedicated person towards education. Not very materialistic. She was always contented with the simple things in life. Biologically, she never had a child, but she nourished and nurtured many young people. Of course, she's had 2 adopted children, but there are hundreds of children that she has nourished and nurtured over the years. She has carried out the legacy of her father in being committed to educating the youth of this country. And I'm very happy that she has played a part in being a good educator in this country. And when people talk about nation builders, indeed, Grace was a nation builder in terms of her contribution to young people in this country. Not very materialistic at all, but a humble person that could interact and relate to all members of society, whether they were rich or they were poor. I was privileged to be in the Emmanuel High School with Grace. And although she was about 2 forms ahead of me, but we were so few in numbers that we always interacted. And since my return from overseas, we've always had a very good, very warm relationship. She invited me to give the baccalaureate address at the Emmanuel High School in Mesopotamia. Now, when she finished her high school at Emmanuel High School at Green Corner in Kingstown, she taught for some time the junior forms at Emmanuel High School there. And then she became the manager and the head teacher in Mesopotamia, which she has done up until she retired, I think the year 2007. I think she was a very low-key person, and not much credit has been given to her for the work that she has done in this country here in education. But the government recognized what she did, and I believe she was awarded an OBE. But so many times we neglect these people because she was not one to beat her own drum, and she was not one to draw attention to herself. She quietly did what she had to do in the form of education for the children of this country. She was committed, particularly for children, poor people children in the rural areas of this country. It was sad to hear that her life came to an end, and we have to miss her. But she has left her mark. I hear people talk about those who have made great contribution to their country. But indeed, I can say without any doubt that Grace has made a great contribution in the field of education to the young people in this country. And there are those that she has helped. Her mother was from Canada, and she had connections in Canada, and children who were in need, she would try and get help for them in Canada. This was the type of person Grace was. Very humble, very compassionate, very caring. And this country has benefited greatly from what she has done in helping build this nation by educating the nation's children. She would be greatly missed. And I trust that the work she has done and the memories we have of her would be a blessing to all of us in the future.
I am Marcus Kane. I happen to live at Arnorsville, but I'm a Bible man. In 1968, I left primary school and was sitting on the bridge in Bible, hoping that I could find an opportunity for employment in the banana fields to brush the weeds out, or to get a job with the road gangs, because I had finished school, and that was the end of it. Until something very important happened. The Eustaces came through the community and said, there's a school in Mespo, so that it is open to all people of all ages, practically young people of all age ranges, etc. So my mother said, hey, you go and write the exam, see what happens, etc. So I went with a group of other friends of mine to write the entrance exam for Emmanuel Mespo. And then a week after, we were supposed to return to the school to find out if we had been successful. And as we formed a line to approach, Grace Eustace was the person who was handing out the results. So as you got up in the line, you called your name, and she would say whether you have passed or failed. And so when it came to my time to say, okay, Marcus Kane, she said, you step aside. I had to step aside and let others come up in the line. And then when she had dealt with all the others, she called me back and said, okay, you did well on the exams, but you are too old to get a scholarship. You're 14 years of age, and my father has said that we should give you a half scholarship to go to school. And so I was so glad for it. I couldn't wait to get home to tell my mother. Because there were 12 of us in the family. I'm number 6. And all of my siblings before me either worked well, they didn't go to school after that. They worked to support the younger ones because there was no father in the home. Well, I later learned in my association with Grace Eustace that was her life's goal and mission, to rescue young people and children, and by the grace of God, well, she has a good name, Grace, and by the grace of God, love them and assist them and help them to link up with the God with whom she had to do. And I'm thankful that eventually, after I had spent 5 years within the school system there, I came to faith in Jesus Christ, and at her encouraging and her praying for me, and then she didn't have to want God for me anymore. I wanted God for my own self, and then she took upon herself to disciple me, to get me involved in Youth for Christ, and in young people's camps on Myro, and later on to be associated with her in Youth with a Mission. The whole aim was to expose young people to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and to actively demonstrate God's love so that they too can come to faith in Jesus Christ and be disciples. Well, I always remember that I was in fourth form, and I developed a very bad attitude towards mathematics, because my teacher at that time told the class that, boy, this thing was not so easy. You had to spend long hours at night to work out these problems. He called them riders. And I said, boy, he's a bright man. I'm not so smart. And if he told us that there were such challenges, then what's the point? So I gave up. I was still good at other subjects, etc. So I passed to go to Form 5. But I had 18% in mathematics. And it is one day when my children ran up to the first floor on which we live here. They ran from the downstairs with an old report book from Emmanuel High School. And they were killing themselves with laughter because they had discovered that I had 18% in math, going from Form 4 to Form 5, and wanted to know what happened. Well, I had to tell them the truth. Thankfully, Grace Eustace rescued me. She was not the teacher, but when I got to Form 5, she took me under her wings and decided that she was going to teach me to know how to understand mathematics. And her efforts were not in vain. Thankfully, by her efforts and God's grace, I became as good as my teachers and better than some, and to the extent where I think I served well throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the region in educating people at all sorts of levels in mathematics. As for that matter, I served for 17 years as the chief examiner in Caribbean Examinations Council Mathematics. That's no mean feat for a struggler, saved by Grace Eustace, from the dung heap, through her efforts, through her love, and through her care for people. And so I said that she exposed me to Youth with a Mission. She exposed me to other youth groups. I always remember when she founded the Juice Garden. Oh, the Juice Garden in Kingston. We recreated a virtual dump site into a place where young people could meet and socialize and in an informal way um, present the gospel of Jesus Christ um, to other to other young people. So I was in the vanguard of that, working alongside her. We have worked together at building schools, building buildings in Mesopotamia, like where the present Emmanuel High School is located. I went to school in the community center, that through her efforts, and she was a master builder. I'm sitting here on my porch here in Huntsville. One day she came and she looked at what I was doing and she said, Marcus, if you invite young people to have fellowship on your porch, it will crumble because it is missing. It is missing. What do you call those? Not a beam. The beams go across, and whatever they are. He says you need a column. She says you need a column on that side. Thankfully, I obeyed her. And then my wife was able to put a laundry where the column was. So she was a master builder, etc. What's the point? The point is that I'm just a typical example of the people that the Eustaces have saved from poverty by educating us, by linking us up with the God with whom I now have to do, with whom she had to do, which was her life's goal. In fact, she has this acronym which outlines what she stands for. It's called GLACE, God's love actively reaching children and youth, GLACE. And that's what she has assigned her earthly possessions to increasing people. I thank God for the life of Grace Eustace. She has been my mentor, my friend. She has made sure that she prayed for me all the time, and she made sure that I was properly discipled into the family of God and became a useful citizen here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and wherever I happen to be. Thank you.
I had known Miss Eustace for several years, but I really got to know her when I came to teach at Emmanuel High School, Mespo, in 1983. I discovered that she's a very friendly person. I also realized that she allowed her staff members to make worthwhile contributions in the development of the school. One of the things that I really appreciated was when we wanted to build this new structure, the one in the background here, that she raised the matter in staff meeting. I remember her saying they had $50,000, but that couldn't even buy nail. And the staff members, we encouraged her to have a groundbreaking ceremony and make a start, and things would happen. And guess what? She followed our suggestions, and the school became a reality. One of the things that I remember through the years is a statement that she would make from time to time, where she said, honesty is not the best policy, it is the only policy. And that stuck with me through the years. Another thing that really drew my attention to the type of person she was is that whenever she had important letters to send out, letters from the school that is, she would run it by one of us, especially the English teachers. Although her English was impeccable, she would run it by us to ensure that what goes out from the school was of a very high standard. She had a love for people, and there are times when she would take in students into the school even into a term. And sometimes these were students who would have gotten thrown out of other schools for bad behavior. So, all in all, I think that she was the kind of person who God used in a powerful way, both in the religious and in the academic circles. And she has made, in my opinion, a worthwhile contribution to the development of our country.
Sponsored by New Haven Funeral Home.
A funeral service should be one that you can be proud of, one that leaves lasting memories of your loved ones. And that's where you need the New Haven Funeral Home. When you walk through our doors, our work begins. From corsages to flowers to guest books, whatever you need to make that funeral a memorable one. We are proud of the quality and class we have brought to the industry. We are proud for having trained the very first certified embalmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are proud of leading the way in terms of live streaming of funerals online so that your family members overseas could also be part of the celebration of life. We are constantly improving our services. We are driven by customer satisfaction, and we are proud of all that we do.
New Haven Funeral Home, helping families preserve memories.
We'll finally get to be together, stare with our hearts at what has been and find some place of home. And find some place of home. On her way. She's on her way. She's on her way. On her way. She's on her way. On her way.
I met Grace Eustace as a teenager coming to inquire about a vacancy for a science teacher. I had 3 classmates who were already working here and some other schoolmates from grammar school. I wasn't particularly interested in teaching, but I saw it as an opportunity to be with my friends and do something worthwhile. When I got here, I didn't even know where MESPA was. When I was brought here by my friend, I was looking for the principal and I saw this lady in a t-shirt and a skirt and a slippers, what we call gunslinger. A down-to-earth lady, Miss Eustace, interviewed me on the spot and asked me to write an application and bring it the next day. In about a week, she called me and told me to report to work the next day. And I was so scared and so naive. I had never thought in my life. But I had a lot of support from her and senior teachers, persons like Mr. Charles, Mr. Joseph, and Mr. Clark. I actually wrote a resignation the first night after I came here, and I never submitted it. And I'm happy that I never did. I actually got another job during that first month that the guys tell me, just stay and see if you would like it. Miss Eustace was very heavy on evangelism. She inquired if I was baptized, and on finding out that I wasn't, almost every morning Miss Eustace would be on my case with my little religious education, if you want to call it that. And I eventually got baptized. I got a little more serious, in spiritual things. What I admired most about Miss Eustace over the years is her love for young people and the confidence that she places in youth. I myself, being very young, Miss Eustace would have put me in positions and sent me to represent her on various occasions because she had that confidence in young people. She would be remembered for the way she used to reach out to young people. I can recall students who would not have passed any exam whatsoever, common entrance, school leaving, nothing, but were given a chance at an education here at Emmanuel High School, Mesco, by Miss Eustace. Parents would come and speak to Miss Eustace, and she would give persons a chance, and some of them became valedictorians. Some of them already have their degrees, some are doctors. I think the contribution that Miss Eustace would have made and the legacy she continued from her father would be long remembered by many Vincentians. I particularly remember the camps and the social activities that she would provide for young people to interact. On Saturday, she would have youth meeting here, and sometimes after teaching my Saturday classes, I used to give free Saturday class, I would hang back sometimes and hang around and interact. And Miss Eustace would continue with her evangelism because she was one who would look for not just the educational development, but the spiritual and the holistic development of young people. May Miss Eustace rest in peace.
I just want to share how Grace Eustace influenced my life in helping me to become what I am today. My first encounter with Grace was when I entered the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia, as a student in the early 1970s. I was about to enter the teaching profession as a grade student teacher after passing the primary school leaving exam, but I opted for a secondary school education. My choice was the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia. Grace made me feel welcome. I can still see the broad smile on her face showing all her teeth. She expressed her high expectations of me, and I don't think I disappointed her. When I topped my class in the academic performance, she ensured that I was rewarded with appropriate literature, spiritual literature, Christian books to help the young in their spiritual growth. Books like Who Will Die for a Lie, and other books by Andrew Murray and Billy Graham with an evangelism flavor. She believed in evangelism and would have influenced me in that direction. And that would have been done through organizations like Youth for Christ and bringing in prominent guest speakers to motivate us students to live for Christ and to become all that we were meant to become. Grace Eustace saw leadership qualities and trustworthiness in me. Hence, she encouraged me to be involved and to take charge of social groups like the ISCF, Inter-School Christian Fellowship, and the school cooperative. She provided opportunities for real personal growth for which I am very grateful. In terms of teaching, she taught me scripture, not just to pass the GCE subject, but also to learn to live for Jesus Christ and to live well with people. Now, one day, the very day that I obtained my GCE result, she had a personal talk with me and found out what I really wanted to do. As soon as the conversation was over, that was sometime in 1982, she announced to the staff that Alwyn Joseph just got himself a job to teach at the school. In those early years of teaching, Grace Eustace was always there supporting me to grow more academically and spiritually, and reminding me of one of her favorite scriptures in Luke 2:52. I quote, "And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man." And that's what she wanted from me and from persons who are close to her, to emulate Jesus in that regard. She said that I was an asset to the school and was concerned about losing me, just like how she lost Marcus Kane on completion of studies at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers College. Therefore, she made an early request to the Ministry of Education for me to return to the school on completion of my studies. That was done. It was then I really realized the high regard that Grace Eustace had for me. Most of us know that Grace was very meticulous, and she will correct, she will dot all the I's and cross all the T's. So when Grace Eustace gave you an evaluation, you take it with a pat on your back, because you know that is something that would come straight from her heart and something that she would have paid very close attention to. Grace Eustace had confidence in me, and so she kept pushing me to the forefront to many public events. And this I am very grateful for, because it helped to build my self-confidence and self-esteem. We didn't always agree, but we had excellent relations. Whenever a class was in an uproar, I remember her using the term bedlam. That was her term, and that word stick with me up to today. Bedlam instead of disorder. Even now, I can see Grace Eustace addressing the school, and she had a way of doing it. As she would speak on tiptoes, she will tiptoe and she would be speaking to get her message across. And I continued with Grace Eustace for the next 20 years and under her principalship, and I have not regretted any moment at all. When I was transferred to the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Boys Grammar School, we continued to have good relations. From time to time, I would visit her. In fact, I still have a dog that she gave me as a puppy. So whenever I look at the dog, I remember Grace Eustace's generosity. I am grateful for Grace, who impacted my life in so many positive ways. She impacted my life so that in turn I can impact the life of others. In that regard, her legacy lived on. She has touched many lives like mine and has impacted many lives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She is truly a national icon. It is with deep emotions that I reminisce on our interactions over the years. And I thank God for the time that He had put her in my life. And I believe that she is now resting in the arms of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Well, Miss Grace Eustace was one of the most impactful residents of the Maricopa Valley. While I was growing up, her presence was not in your face, but she was always visible. I can see her now in a small Mini driving up and down the streets in Mesopotamia. And she made quite an impact, especially on young people. She worked with young people, mainly from the Sunday school level, from the church level. She organized groups for young people to take part in, whether it's volleyball or discussion groups, etc., but always with the Christian underpinnings in these groups. So she was able to mold the people from small right up. Of course, she had an impact on the adults in the community as well. In terms of school, she marshaled forces around the people of Maricopa in terms of getting them into school, giving them a second chance. The Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia, continues to be a pillar of strength with respect to education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It was in the days of Gracie and her father, of course, that this took root. And a number of people, hundreds of people, who would not have had a secondary education, got a secondary education because Gracie made that possible through the Emmanuel High School, especially when it was downstairs at the community center in Mesopotamia. It didn't matter that the building was dilapidated or whatever it was, but she was able to make it work. I got my first job from Gracie. She literally plucked me out of the block and offered me a position at the Emmanuel High School to teach French and geography. I didn't stay long, but that was my first job. And many people continue to sing her praises, that she was able to mentor them and to give them a foundation. She was able to steer them in the right direction. She did a lot of work outside of Maricopa, of course. Every Sunday during the week, she would journey to other places with her father or without him. Later on, without him, of course, to organize church services in other parts of the country. I can remember her phenomenal work with the Youth for Christ organization, where a lot of youths attended, had wholesome conversations about gospel, etc. And I think that must have been one of the hallmarks of her service here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Maricopa community stands tall these days on the shoulders of some stalwarts and some pioneers, and Grace Eustace was one of those pillars. We will miss her. We will miss her presence. We will miss her contribution. She's a patriot. She's a community builder. And I think that we ought to honor her memory. And this particular service here, I hope will honor it unto the glory of God, because she did do a lot of work in the name of the Lord. Thank you.
Sponsored by New Haven Funeral Home.
A funeral service should be one that you can be proud of, one that leaves lasting memories of your loved ones. And that's where you need the New Haven Funeral Home. When you walk through our doors, our work begins. From corsages to flowers to guest books, whatever you need to make that funeral a memorable one. We are proud of the quality and class we have brought to the industry. We are proud for having trained the very first certified embalmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are proud of leading the way in terms of live streaming of funerals online so that your family members overseas could also be part of the celebration of life. We are constantly improving our services. We are driven by customer satisfaction, and we are proud of all that we do.
New Haven Funeral Home, helping families preserve memories.
We'll finally get to be together, stare with our hearts at what has been, and find some place of home. And find some place of home. On her way. She's on her way. She's on her way. On her way. She's on her way. On her way.
When I met Miss Eustace in the 1980s as a teenager, being affiliated to the Gospel Hall Assemblies, and as you know, Miss Eustace was a part of the Gospel Hall Assemblies, and she would come to the different events that the church had, like conventions and so on. However, as a volunteer of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Youth for Christ in the late 80s, early 90s, Miss Eustace would have been on the board of Youth for Christ, and I've interacted with her several times. Our relationship grew when I joined the staff of Emmanuel Mespo in 1991. However, that same year, Miss Eustace was involved in a child evangelism workshop, and she was instrumental also in not only bringing Youth for Christ, but child evangelism fellowship to St. Vincent. Her focus was really on children, on youths, Youth for Christ, child evangelism, Emmanuel High School Mespo. And over the past 30 years or so that I've known Miss Eustace, I've worked very closely with her on a number of projects. I remember when I joined the staff at Emmanuel, Miss Eustace would have this big sheet of paper, Bristol board, doing the timetable by herself. And I volunteered to help her to do the timetable on not computer, but manually work it out. And for a school like Emmanuel that is very large, it is very difficult to do a manual timetable by hand. And she would spend days working on that timetable, and I would assist her. As I worked at Emmanuel Mespo as a teacher, and later became the principal of Emmanuel Mespo when Miss Eustace retired in 2007. Our relationship continued to grow. We spent several hours together playing Chinese checkers in the staff room at Emmanuel, having prayer meetings at the staff room. The concept of the Emmanuel High School Mespo Annex was developed one afternoon in the staff meeting after school when we were looking at how we could expand the school. And Miss Eustace was saying to us that we need more space because she would like to offer technical vocation education. The school was already doing woodwork and technical drawing and food and nutrition, but she wanted to venture into home management, clothing and textile. And it was at the time that information technology was being introduced to the school as a subject. So in the late 90s, here it is, Miss Eustace looking for ideas of how to expand the school, to develop a new set of programs for the students. Our philosophy was always that the students must benefit from what the school offers. And at that time, we looked at how we could construct the annex. the school didn't have any money at that time. But through the generous support of friends of Miss Eustace and well-wishers, including Project Serve, which was a part of Youth for Christ, sent teams in to help with the construction of the annex. I wasn't there at Emmanuel when the main building was done, but Miss Eustace also led the transformation of Emmanuel Mespo in terms of construction, the main building that is right next to George's Supermarket. This lady was like a contractor, supervisor, engineer at times. She saw the school moving from the community hall, which was next to the health center, from the shop at Bacchus, from Hebron Gospel Chapel, the old Hebron Gospel Chapel, into the new building in the 80s, and then started the construction of the annex. Even the present construction that's taking place at Emmanuel Mespo, Miss Eustace was the one who thought that the school need to expand it even further to meet the needs of our students. She thought that in meeting the needs of our students that we needed more space. And it was her vision and ideas. I'm only implementing what she started and working on her legacy to carry on what Dr. J.P. Eustace, her father, started. She also believed that students must be disciplined. And she always used to quote Luke 2:52, that just as Jesus developed in all aspects of life, that our students must develop in all aspects of life. They must be given equal opportunities. She have fought a good fight. She have run the race. She have left behind a great history, been involved in not only educational work, but the spiritual work, the spiritual development of the young people. Even as she retired and went to Myra, her focus was reaching children. And she was instrumental in bringing Youth with a Mission to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And all because she wanted the students of Emmanuel Mespo to go to camp to get that spiritual component of their life and being exposed more even further to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Reality is that we took students down to Myra several times, and she was able to see that dream come true, where students would go on camp in Myra and be exposed to Jesus Christ and enjoy the beautiful beaches in Myra. She was able to see that on several occasions. Today, we celebrate the life of Grace Eustace. We celebrate her contribution not only to the Emmanuel High School Mespo, but to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She must be recognized as a nation builder. She has invested in a number of students who passed through the Emmanuel High School Mespo over the past 59 or so years, almost 60 years. And she was one of the first teachers at the school. So the contribution to St. Vincent and to the nation is significant. And you have to remember too, that Emmanuel High School Mespo was a school that offered second chance education when there were no other school taking students. Miss Eustace, just as her name states, grace, show grace to many people and give them a second chance when other schools put them out. When students in past the CPA, or back then was the common entrance, Miss Eustace had her own entrance so that we can enroll students who are 15 and 16 years old into Emmanuel High School Mespo so that they can get a secondary school education. So here we have it, that a woman with a vision to see her nation develop spiritually and academically contributed her life to the development of children and youth in this nation. May her soul rest in peace.
I am a past student of the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia. Actually, I was amongst the first set of students that came into this new building. I remember us taking our Form 1 room to photo over there, and this area where I'm standing here, where I took my last graduation photo before leaving school. I am also one of the students who would have benefited from the entrance exam that Miss Eustace had. Actually, I did not pass common entrance or school evenings, and I was given the opportunity to attend secondary school because of that program. I must thank Miss Eustace for impacting my life, for giving me that opportunity to get a secondary education. And today I am a proud student, a proud benefactor of her generosity and commitment to education of young people. I remember when she passed, I informed my classmates in our WhatsApp chat group, and a lot of people had fond memories of her. She was a very stern person. When she walked the corridor, she wasn't fully built. She was very small in build, but she had a presence about her that commanded respect and authority. I would always remember her for what she did for us as students, the impact she made on our lives, her insistence to show us, teach us about God, and giving us the opportunity to be better persons in society.
For as long as I can remember, Miss Eustace, or Miss Grace, as I call her, has been a part of my life. She's been Auntie Grace for me at first, and later on in life, we played the mother-daughter role to each other. She has been an inspiration to me. I've been blessed to be raised by two very strong women. And I would not be the person I am today if I weren't, or if I didn't experience the influence of Miss Grace in my life. She would often be misjudged, I guess, because of her small stature. And one of the things she says to me is people look at me and they see one little old woman. But she knew how to command people's respect. And she was a no-nonsense kind of person. She wasn't afraid to hurt people's feelings, if we might put it that way. If she had an issue, you were going to hear about it. And I learned to be strong as an individual from, looking at her and listening to her. And she would continue to be a part of my life, even though she's gone. Now, I'm also very blessed that I was there with her right until the end. I was able to pray with her, and she looked at me and smiled, and then she was gone, which was just crazy for me. And I'm now processing, that passing, because I still can't believe that she's gone. But her legacy is going to continue to live on in my life. And there were a lot of things that, of course, we would have butted heads. But there are a lot of things that I didn't quite understand. And when I became a mom, you understand that it's not, the world is not always as you see it. And as you get older, you get more mature. It's, amazing the life experiences that she had and how she would have impacted so many persons. And I'll be forever grateful for all that she would have taught me, and all that I've learned being with her and around her. I've known her on a personal level. Maybe a lot of people, didn't see that side, but Miss Grace is just a phenomenal woman.
Sponsored by New Haven Funeral Home.
A funeral service should be one that you can be proud of, one that leaves lasting memories of your loved ones. And that's where you need the New Haven Funeral Home. When you walk through our doors, our work begins. From corsages to flowers to guest books, whatever you need to make that funeral a memorable one. We are proud of the quality and class we have brought to the industry. We are proud for having trained the very first certified embalmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are proud of leading the way in terms of live streaming of funerals online so that your family members overseas could also be part of the celebration of life. We are constantly improving our services. We are driven by customer satisfaction, and we are proud of all that we do.
New Haven Funeral Home, helping families preserve memories.
We'll finally get to be together, stare with our hearts at what has been and find some place of home. And find some place of home. On her way. She's on her way. She is on her way. On her way. She is on her way. On her way.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words about Miss Grace Eustace. We heard about her unfortunate death last week on the 3rd of August 2022, and I think that that was a national tragedy. We are celebrating today the life of Miss Grace Eustace. We had a very close relationship. She was very close to our family. In fact, I would even go as far as saying that she was a part of our family. This relationship had its genesis many years ago. It has its genesis when my father began his journey of secondary school education. In fact, it is likely that he was only able to get a secondary school education at all because of Grace Eustace's father, Dr. John Parmenas Eustace, who is being considered as we speak for elevation to the post of national, or to the office or rank of national hero in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That gave my father the opportunity to have a secondary school education, and the relationship between our families has been strong and growing ever since. Daddy naturally developed a relationship with Grace Eustace, who was Doc's daughter, as they both attended the Emmanuel High School, Kingstown, together. Moreover, in 1963, J.P. Eustace opened the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia. And the first two teachers at that Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia, were none other than Grace Eustace and Theodore Brown, my father. So they were pioneers together in the delivery of secondary school education in rural St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Our families have been close ever since. Grace Eustace, of course, stayed on at the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia. She touched many lives in her capacity as teacher at that institution. She used to teach several different subjects. She used to teach religious education, mathematics, and Spanish with great proficiency. She is renowned and well known for the way in which she embedded her Christian principles in the curriculum, and in general, for contributing to the spiritual development of our students and giving them not only an educational compass, but a moral compass for their life. Miss Eustace was who we could describe as a do-so Christian. She wasn't a say-so Christian. She was interested in practicing what she preached, and her example, her life rather, is an example that we could hold up for generations yet unborn. I could hardly quantify the kind of impact that Miss Eustace had through education on the lives of Vincentians. And I could only wish that she, by her legacy, would continue to inspire Vincentians unborn to the heights of educational achievement, and also inspire them to live decent and upright lives based on integrity. That was her legacy. She wasn't only restricted to the classroom. She wasn't only restricted to the church, but there were many other aspects or dimensions to her personality. For instance, she was a noted philanthropist. Miss Eustace, in addition to living in St. Vincent, she had a strong connection with the Grenadine island of Mairo. In fact, she had a house in Mairo and spent some of her later years in Mairo until she came back here in recent times and resumed residence at her Mesopotamia home. We have many fond and special memories. I myself had the opportunity to work alongside with Miss Eustace when I finished my stint at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College. And before going off to study, I had a gap year between 2004 and 2005. And I thought that the best way to spend my gap year was by teaching at the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia, for that period of time. And I remember how graciously she welcomed me to the staff and she introduced me to the students on my first day. She described me as the first second generation teacher of the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia, because of the fact that my father had taught there with her, as I mentioned at the outset of that school. And we enjoyed a strong and very close relationship right up to the end. In fact, just a few days before she actually died, I visited Miss Eustace where she was at the Levi Latham Health Center at that time with my father, just to check up on her and to see how she was doing after she had suffered a health mishap. We were able to lift her spirit. We were able to remind her of some old-time stories. We were able to make reference to some of her favorite passages of scripture. And I think that she is right now in glory with her Savior. We thank God for giving us the opportunity to live and walk among Grace Eustace. And I believe that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a much better place because of her. May she rest in peace.
My name is Michelle Doyle, a former student of Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia. And this is my tribute to Miss Grace Eustace. The words we never said. Did we remember to thank you? Did we remember to tell you we appreciate you for all that you have done for us? Did we remember to thank you for all the time you were by our side? Did we remember to say sorry for all the times we gave you a hard time? Did we remember to thank you for all the help and support you have given to us? Did we remember to thank you when we celebrate our successes? Did we remember to thank you for listening and understanding our problem? Did we remember to thank you for accepting us as we are? Did we remember to thank you for encouraging us not to accept defeat? Did we remember to thank you for teaching us by your example of value and hard work? Did we remember to thank you for all your kindness? Did we remember to thank you for teaching us courage, integrity, and grace? Did we remember to thank you for your sacrifice you made for us? Did we remember to thank you for teaching us that everyone deserves a chance of an education and a chance to do things right? Thank you, angel from earth. God has just given you your wings. Miss Grace, you always saw the best in us. Thank you for allowing us to have the best of you. Thank you for bringing out the very best in us all. You were a simple lady that shared with us laughter, smile, and most of all, your time. Sorry, sorry, sweet angel, if we never said thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We'll finally get to be together, stare with our hearts at what has been and find some place of home. And find some place of home. On her way. She's on her way. She's on her way. On her way.
Sponsored by New Haven Funeral Home.
A funeral service should be one that you can be proud of, one that leaves lasting memories of your loved ones. And that's where you need the New Haven Funeral Home. When you walk through our doors, our work begins. From corsages to flowers to guest books, whatever you need to make that funeral a memorable one. We are proud of the quality and class we have brought to the industry. We are proud for having trained the very first certified embalmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are proud of leading the way in terms of live streaming of funerals online so that your family members overseas could also be part of the celebration of life. We are constantly improving our services. We are driven by customer satisfaction, and we are proud of all that we do.
New Haven Funeral Home, helping families preserve memories.